they're not going to sit by these legal niceties. And one of them says, strip her. And Dushasan, the younger brother, gets up and starts pulling her sari. And he pulls, and the sari keeps getting expanding infinitely, till after half an hour, he's humiliated himself and he sits down. You know, when the TV serial was going on, Raj, in Bombay, in the 90s, a particularly innovative Gujarati company marketed a Draupadi collection of saris. Unfortunately, those saris did not gain market share, too much market share, I suppose because they did not extend infinitely. If you market a Draupadi collection, your claim should be that they will expand infinitely. Anyway, at this point, Draupadi gets very angry. And she looks at these elders who are all watching this dice game, and the kings are all there because this is the consecration of the emperor. That's the occasion. And she looks at Bhishma, the eldest, the grandfather, and she asks him, how did you let this happen? Would you mind staying in the room? Because it's going back and forth is... She says, how did you let this happen? And tell me, what is the dharma of the king? And she looks at all the elders, at Dhritarashtra, Vidura, everybody. And they all remain silent. And then she quotes a sage, Kashyapa, who says that when a crime is committed, half the punishment goes to the person who commits the crime. A quarter punishment goes to the person who abets the crime, his ally. But a quarter of the punishment goes to those who remain silent. So at this time, Raj, the president of the election, the election for the president of India was taking place. And many of you remember that this UPA government nominated a woman for this. And we were delighted. Pratibha Patil. But a month before the election, we started hearing disturbing news about her and her family. That her husband was implicated in a murder which had not come to trial. That the family owned a bank and the bank had gone bust, and the Indian Express reported, and they reproduced a letter of the liquidator of the bank which showed that the members of her family had taken loans, huge loans, with no intention of paying them back. And this is why the bank went bust. So some of us were very concerned.
Still got elected though.
Well, you know, a week before the election, I was at that time doing a weekly column in the Times of India. And I wrote an open letter to Manmohan Singh, which was titled, Don't Be Silent. And in that I recounted this great story of Draupadi and Rishi Kashyap's statement that 1/4 of the punishment goes to the silent. So I said to Manmohan Singh that you are the Bhishma of this government, the one we respect. and the one everybody respects. So don't you remain silent. But of course you know the rest, that a week later she replaced the most popular president in Indian history, Abdul Kalam, and many of us felt diminished just a little bit that day. However, it's a tribute to the Indian media that nobody after that brought up the background of Pratibha Patil, because we had the respect for the office of the president.
Gurcharan, are we as a country, as India as a country, you mentioned corruption in small places and corruption in high places. According to the Swiss government, Indians hold the most numbered accounts in terms of dollars outside India among any nationality. Now, is the country just sort of used to corruption? Is that going to be sort of a way of life? It's an item in the P&L. You have to do it to succeed. And if I read your book, sometimes the message I get is that it's okay, that the means don't necessarily have to be that moralistic, because at the end of the day, you're creating something beautiful, you're generating jobs, you're helping your people. So what if there's
no, I don't want to suggest that at all, and neither does the Mahabharata. And in fact, this leads me to the very next moment. So let's come back for a second to the Mahabharata. I'm going to answer your question about means and ends.
Okay.
And now the Pandavas are in the forest. This is the punishment for having lost their kingdom. They've been exiled for 13 years. And Draupadi sees her husband sleeping on the hard earth. And she says to her husband, "My heart weeps for you, you who've always slept on sheets of silk and pillows of down." They had goose down pillows, not just now. You can buy them from Bloomingdale's.
Is it Bed Bath & Beyond at that time?
And she says, "Is this the way of the world, that the good must suffer and the bad must live in palaces and mansions?" And so she tells her husband, "Look, it's not too late. Let's collect an army and let's go and win back the kingdom that was stolen from us in a rigged game of dice." And she tells her husband that your dharma is that you are a warrior, a kshatriya, and a warrior is supposed to wage a just war, and our cause is just. So he says, "No, my dharma is that I have given my word to Dhritarashtra that we will go into exile." So you see how the Mahabharata has transposed two conceptions of dharma. I'm coming to means and ends in a minute. And two conceptions of dharma. One is the social virtue, that I am a warrior and this is my duty as a social duty. Whereas the other is a much more internal virtue. And this also shows you the influence here of, this is happening, Mahabharata evolved over 700 years. So history was influencing it. And one of the things that influenced it was Buddhism, Jainism, the yoga sects which came about around the 4th, 5th century. And so she is confused, Draupadi. And you see, he's concerned because she's looking at the ends.
She wants to win back the kingdom.
She wants to win back the kingdom.
At any cost.
At any cost.
Even if there's war.
Whatever. She says, your duty is this, you do this. But he's looking to the means. I have given my word. And so, visiting them is Vidura, their uncle. And Vidura, they ask him, what is dharma? You tell us, you're a wise man. And Vidura says, well, the way I check out dharma is that I look at the consequences of the deed. If it helps the people, if an action helps people, the praja, that's good. Looking at the ends. But then she says, but look at this crazy husband of mine. Either he's a coward, or she says, I don't understand him. Because he is looking not at the ends, he is looking at something that he's given his word. Now, I don't understand that. And you know, to clarify this debate that's taking place now in the Mahabharata in the forest, was an incident that took place in Goa a couple of years ago. About 7 years ago, actually. There was a child drowning off the beach in Goa, and a young man jumped in and saved this child. And the reporter of the Times of India went up to this young man and she said, you're a hero. Why did you do it? And he looked sheepishly at her and he says, you know, we are a college group that has come from Delhi, and I was trying to impress a girl in our group. And then she says, but then you're not a hero. But Vidura would have said that the child was saved. Dharma was done when the child was saved. So why are you worried about his intentions?
How does that
And just one second.
It relates to
what Yudhishthir, you see, this is the question. Yudhishthir would have jumped in even if no one was looking.
Mm-hmm.
So you see the difference.
Sure.
That you judge the saving of this child as an act that Yudhishthir jumping in, as Yudhishthir doing the right thing, or this young man. So is it the ends that matter? Because the young man saved the child.
Absolutely.
So what difference does it make? What were his motivations? And so this is what I was trying to explain to you, that the Mahabharata actually helps you to improve your moral reasoning skills. And good moral action is based on good moral reasoning.
It's extraordinary that, you know, a 2,000-year-old epic, you know, can address the questions, you know, which India faces today, the world faces. It's not just an Indian situation. Now,